What do the following places have in common? The tiny island of Icaria in Greece, Sardinia off the coast of Italy, Japan's Okinawa, the coastal peninsula of Nicoya in Costa Rica, and a small community of Adventists in Southern California. The answer? They are the Blue Zones, a term coined 2 decades ago by explorer and journalist Dan Buettner.
Instead of looking for answers in test tubes, I found 5 places around the world called blue zones where people are living to 100 at the highest rates in the world.
The Blue Zone theory says there are 9 common characteristics in places where people live to ripe old ages, such as low impact physical movement like yard work, a plant-based diet, a conscious sense of purpose, adherence to some sort of faith, moderate alcohol consumption, and strong family and social networks. Some cities have undertaken Blue Zone projects in their communities using urban design, but Australian academic Saul Newman is far from convinced.
I'm Dr. Saul Newman. I have a PhD in medical science from the ANU, and I'm Senior Research Fellow at the University of Oxford and University College London. So I have discovered that, first of all, most centenarians in the blue zones, most 100-year-olds in the blue zones, were missing or dead when the study was conducted. The findings are therefore based on bad data. Later studies discovered that at least 17 to 82% of centenarians in the blue zones were missing clerical errors or dead, and there was a systematic problem with the data involved. On top of that, all of the lifestyle claims don't stack up when measured by independent data. So health in the blue zones was claimed to be good, and it was in fact poor before, during, and after they were established to an extraordinary degree.
Saul says it's mainly down to dodgy record keeping. Worse, he says welfare fraud is part of the reason.
An earlier study that I found that's been completely ignored, and it looks at where centenarians are inside Okinawa, and it's where the Americans bombed the place. So effectively, firebombing is a predictor of reaching 100, so that if you've bombed a town and destroyed all the birth certificates, the American GIs have come in and replaced those birth certificates, that's where the 100-year-olds are within Okinawa. Now that explains 80% of the distribution of centenarians. It's not the good lifestyle advice, like everything else, but it just really points to the extraordinary lack of critical thinking that has surrounded these claims for so long. And really, these problems are systematic across all of these claimed blue zones. A very simple way this happens is that if your father or neighbour dies, you don't register the death, and the pension check will keep turning up. Now, everybody sort of knows this in certain parts of Greece, and that they accept that you can just bribe a public official to register a death late, or they just don't do it. And it turned out that 72% of centenarians in Greece, at least, were dead, but collecting their pensions.
Saul also questions the claims behind the 9 Blue Zone longevity secrets. And he has looked at those who lay claim to being the world's oldest people, uncovering some interesting findings. Does Saul know the secret to living to 100?
All of these 9 claims were testable in Okinawa. So, one of them was that people in Okinawa are vegetarian, 90 to 95% vegetarian. Yet they rank dead last in vegetable consumption in the country. They always have. They have sweet potatoes on the front of the Blue Zones documentary, and Okinawa eats the least sweet potatoes in Japan. And this is supposed to be one of these zones. But from every indicator of health that we can actually measure, they rank dead last. Some of it's hilarious. The oldest current living man is sort of a chancer from Liverpool, which roughest part of the UK. But the guy before him was incredible. So he grew up in the best drug growing region of Venezuela, with no evidence of his life whatsoever, paperwork until he's apparently 54. He's a bit of a rogue, to the point where the guy is the sheriff somehow gets appointed the sheriff of one of the best drug growing regions in the world in a swamp. Then he gets into an identity theft case where someone says he's stolen their identity, and he's apparently aged over 100 at this point. And because of this, he comes to the attention of dictator Nicolas Maduro. And Nicolas Maduro is getting slammed by the Western sanctions. And he says, I'm going to use this guy to show how great it is in Venezuela. This supposedly world's oldest man. And what's amazing about this is everybody takes it at face value. Like, there's no further questions. All the press are like, he must be the world's oldest man. Thank you, dictator Nicolas Maduro. The guy with no paperwork from the drug swamp in the middle of Venezuela is legitimate. And they just sort of accept that this guy has outlived all the athletes, all the Olympic athletes, all the health gurus, all the regular Sunday joggers on earth. And you think, okay, but what if his paperwork was made up? It's very, very simple. You can't do much about being born rich, but that's the most important factor. And apart from that, health is very simple. If you don't have some sort of exotic disease or drug addiction, just do some exercise, don't drink, don't smoke, and if you have any doubts, talk to your GP. That's it. Right? If you're doing those things, you'll live much longer, and that's it. It's very, very simple.